into small breakout rooms. I consent to it to be recorded. So we'll be going into some breakout rooms later on. So I've got two screens going on. So if I look to the left, that's because I've got all your gorgeous faces on the left. So I can have the chat box and the PowerPoint in front of me. So I'm not being rude when I look away, but I've gone high tech here. High tech. So welcome to my house, welcome to my lounge. This is my office and stroke lounge that I've got the privilege to work in. So I have tidied it especially for this morning. It doesn't normally look this tidy. And this morning we've got an hour where I'm going to be sharing some insights to help you on your journey, and I am going to be asking you to stop and reflect, and I'm going to be asking some questions that maybe you haven't stopped to ask yourselves, to empower you to raise your self-awareness so you can be an even happier human being and an even more effective leader. And I'll be drawing on my experience as a teacher, a life coach, a consultant, a mother, a human being, to support you in that quest today. So let's say hello to each other initially. I don't know who knows who, and if we're in a room, we'll be saying hello to ourselves. So if you would like to, dare to be seen and just show up in the chat box and just say your name and where you are, the name of the school, geographically maybe you are, and let's just start building this connection together by saying hello, because I believe we can connect just as deeply, if not more deeply, on a Zoom workshop than we would in a physical space, because it allows us to see what's going on in the minds of other people that might normally be something we access. So let's just show up in the chat box to say hello, and I will whiz through it. So we've got Jessica from Widnall in St. Joseph's. We've got Claire, the ALPSIT lead. We've got Kerry from St. Bridget's. So if you just want to say hello or where you're from, etc. We've got M. Broderick from Sacred Heart in Chorley. That's Barry Karen from Haydock. I feel like I'm on a radio show giving out shout outs, but that's exactly what I want you to feel, that we're welcome, we're connected, and we're joined together. So I'm not going to read them all out because you can read through them. And for those that you don't know, there's a head teacher on here whose mother I used to work with as a head teacher. So that's been very exciting. We've just made that connection today. So lovely to meet you all. Hello, hello, hello. So today's session, the plan is I'm going to talk, I'm going to share, I'm going to ask you to reflect. I'm going to ask you to jot things down on a piece of paper. I'm going to ask you to show up in the chat box and show up to be seen. So I'm going to ask you to dare greatly. By daring greatly, hi Lynn, I'm going to ask you to dare greatly. And daring greatly means having the courage to be vulnerable. It means to show up and be seen. It means to ask for what you need. It means to talk about how you are feeling. And it means to have the hard conversations. And that is a quote from Brené Brown, a shame researcher who researches how we can live more wholehearted lives. So I'm going to ask you to show up, to be seen, to have some conversations, because I know with absolute certainty from all the coaching I do, and I coach young people, teenagers, families, head teachers, etc., everyone in the biosphere of the school community, the more we show up to be seen and have those conversations that are deep inside us, the braver we become and the more we're able to thrive. So I'm going to ask you to show up, to pop your head out from behind that tree and show up a little bit more daringly, a little bit more bravely than maybe you normally would do. So connection is important. The more we connect, the more we can be stronger and thrive. And I found out that connection is deepened when one person says to the other, oh, you too. I thought it was just me. And I feel not so quite alone now, and I feel safer. And connection is about us saying, yeah, me too. Because what I've found in all the head teachers I've coached is you sit there in your little classroom, your little school, your little office thinking, well, I've got these fears and insecurities, but I think it's just me, but I'm going to keep going forward and doing my best. And when I've coached head teachers and I say, well, actually, you're not the only one, the shoulders drop and go, oh, I thought it was just me. So the more we can connect on this workshop and the second session with the breakout rooms, the braver I guarantee it we will feel. But I'm just going to invite you to show up with where you are at, with what you've got going on. So I don't know what's going on in your personal life. So show up as bravely as you can with what you've got going on. So what are we looking at today? We're looking at what being human means. and looking at how much we've got a humanity-rich curriculum. We've got a knowledge-based curriculum. We've got an experience-based curriculum. But how much have we got a humanity-rich curriculum? Where do we weave in being human as individuals, as leaders, for the family and the children that you serve? We're going to be looking at not enoughness. We all have it. Where does it come from? What we can do about it. Because children can leave school, yes, with a qualification, but if they've got this thread running through them of not enoughness, then it is a scourge on their life. They don't appreciate it as much. They don't get as much joy. They may have a job and a profession they're proud of, but if they're not feeling the joy in the moment, then is that really success? So I've coached surgeons, doctors, solicitors, directors, teachers, social workers, young people, teenagers, and we've all got this thread of not enoughness. So we need to look at it, examine it, and see what we can do to help improve that. And we're going to look at being brave, what that really looks like, and how we can help others to be brave. So if this seems like a good use of your time today, would you like to type in the chat box a yay, a maybe, I'm open to it? Just put a little comment in the chat box. If this seems a good use of your hour today to show up for us to discuss these things that maybe you haven't discussed to this degree before. And welcome Fiona, who's just joined. Thank you for your comment in the chat box. Most definitely, thank you, Michelle. And if I look to the right, that's because there I can see all your faces. You're going to give it a go, a nice one, Mark. Be open to give it a go. That's all we ask. You have an oh yes, brilliant. So the aim of the session is basically for you to go away feeling more self-aware and braver. That's it. So you can live a bit more richly. So you can impact humanity more because you are in the business of impacting humanity. So you can leave deeper footprints in the sand. And at the end of the session, I'm going to ask you to reflect, just reflect on what you have got from this session. So I'm going to ask you to set your intention today, choose one word for how you'd like to feel at the end of the session, whether it be at the end of the hour or the second hour, one word, and write it down on a piece of paper and put a little box next to it so you can tick it or give it a score out of 10. So maybe your intention is to feel re-energized, reassured, inspired, motivated. Whatever that is, put a little word on your sheet of paper, and that is you putting a postcode in the sat nav. That's the direction to which you're going to put your energy in this session to direct yourself towards. Okay. So there is a reason why you have all signed up for this session. And I want you to stop and reflect, because any number of head teachers could have signed up, but you 20 odd have signed up for a reason. What was that reason? What led you to sign up for this session? And if you'd like to type in the chat box, because there's something special, there's something evolutionary about why my title, Playing the Humanness, resonated with you and you showed up. And I know other people are busy and they've come back from half term, but why did you make time in your diary when there's no time to make? What led you to sign up for this session? If you'd like to type in the chat box, give you a break for an hour. I love it, Mark. So by the end of it, I'm going to hope that you'll feel like you've had a cool drink in the middle of the Sahara, Mark. That's my aim for you today. Anybody else? Needed now off. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So what I'm hearing is you are appreciating your need to stop, slow down and pause, and trying something different. Brilliant. Another head teacher advised, best session she'd been on for a while. Lovely, Lorraine. Who would that be? Take away nuggets of inspiration to help others. Love it. You've been to all the HEADSPACE sessions. They've been uplifting. Lovely, Karen. So that by showing your vulnerability, you can support others. The previous session left me being fulfilled. Lovely, lovely, brilliant. Time to reflect. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Well, I'm going to do my best to show up and share and help you feel you've rested, you've had that cool glass of water, but you've got some stuff to take away with you, because I'm all about impact. I'm all about impact. Now, vulnerability is something we're looking at. And vulnerability brings us together. And just by looking at that picture, you know that we need to come together as a humanity, as a human race, with all our differences, our different coloured creed, religions, ways to look at the world, because vulnerability brings us together. And research has shown that when we do nice things for people we love, we really see the hormone oxytocin. And oxytocin is a hug hormone, it's a happy hormone. But research in Amsterdam in 2010 at the University of Amsterdam found that actually oxytocin is great, and it does create this need and this love to connect and support our own, but also it can intensify aversion to strangers, and in fact it can create a my people first. So I'll look after and I'll gravitate towards and I'll stick with and I'll support my people, but my people first. And I'm sure you can agree, you see that on the playground, you see that in your staff room with these little cliques. You can see that amongst the parents, you can maybe see it in your own life. And we want to reflect as educators and leaders how we bring the whole of humanity together, look after our school, look after the others. And here's an example to illustrate it. The other week, I was driving along a road very close to my house, and I stopped at the traffic lights. And 2 cars in front of me, somebody dropped items of litter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items of litter, M&S, McDonald's wrappers and cans out the side of his car window. Without thinking, I jumped out the car, I ran up, I picked the litter up and I chucked it back through his window. Not my smartest move, I didn't think it through. And then I started backing away thinking, right, you don't even know who's in this car. I didn't stop to look. And this giant guy got out and he starts walking towards me very aggressively saying, "You're scum, you are, you're scum. We've got kids in the back of the car. How dare you do that?" And then his wife jumped out the car, "You're scum, we've got kids in the car." And they're having a yelling match at me. And in that moment, I'm thinking, you really haven't thought this through, Christina. And there's a car between his car and mine. And I stood there and I had what I call a Gandhi moment. I just thought, hold steady, hold steady, hold steady. And in a split second, I realized I led negativity with negativity, and that wasn't my finest moment. So I was going to hold steady and just listen. And he physically was picking up rubbish and throwing it at me. And I just held steady and I let go of judgment. And I just let him reflect on himself. And eventually he got back in the car, chucked the rest of the rubbish back out, and he went on his journey. And before he moved off, his little girl in the back of the car looked at me, and I looked at her with the eyes of a primary school teacher, and I thought, you are in somebody's class at school. And I hope you're a pupil that wants to please the teacher. And I hope you've attached a negative response to what's just happened, that throwing rubbish out the car in an environment that maybe isn't your own is not a positive thing to do. And my question is, would that man have thrown as much rubbish outside his own house? Was he throwing the rubbish because it wasn't his patch? Look after me first, look after my people. If you need to jump off the call, that's not a problem at all. So vulnerability brings us together, and I really want us to stop and reflect about how much we look after everybody, not just our own, because vulnerability brings us together. And I'm sure you agree, in the current climate, it's about educating your staff, your pupils. It's everybody is our responsibility. And I like to think that you can't have too many people to love our child. If you'd like to put some comments in the chat box about what resonates with you, about what I've just shared, about the story, about the research that this oxytocin can fuel friendship, but it can also fuel my people first. And it can intensify an aversion to strangers. How does that resonate to you as a leader in a school? Because humanity, I believe, needs everybody is my people. Everybody is my people. We have this innate drive to stick to our tribe. Love the Gandhi movement, yeah. And I think that's what we need in education a bit, Mark, is thinking, well, Gandhi changed things from the inside, and he did it quietly, he did it peacefully. And you often meet parents showing negativity, and that comes from fear. Important to stay calm in times of negativity, yeah. So let that settle. Let that filter down about how else we can look after the wider tribe, not just our own tribe. Now, in the light of, I'm going to be asking you to show up to be seen in the chat box and in the breakout rooms that come next. I'm going to share my story. Now, Brené Brown, who's a researcher of wholehearted living, talks about how when we own our story, we get to write the ending. So here's my story. Now, they say a picture paints 1,000 words, but it can lie. Because in this family photograph, where I've got my son who's now 18 and my youngest son who's now 13, it's a picture of family harmony. But what that picture does not show is that about an hour prior to that picture being taken, I was upset. I'd been triggered. We'd been looking round a castle and my boys had all huddled together over something in common. And yet again, I felt that I was left out. But what I realise now is that that little upset, that little stop, that little being triggered was my fear, my primal fear that maybe I'm not valued, maybe I'm not wanted. And through the coaching journey I've gone on, I can see where that comes from. Because when I was about 4, I observed what we could call domestic aggression. And I was bundled in my mum's car and driven to my grandparents' house with my brother, where we lived from year 1 to year 6. And I lived in a room, sharing a room with my mum for all those years. And in that moment, unbeknownst to me, in my grandma's house, I looked at my mum and I made a decision about how to stay safe. I was going to be perfect. I was going to navigate her moods. I wouldn't take space up in the world. And she was my responsibility. I needed to please my mum to stay safe. And also, I made it mean that when my mum wanted to control and question to improve me, that I would respond and do my best to be perfect to stay safe. And also in that interrupted childhood, my dad never gave any maintenance, and I only got to see him at Christmas, birthdays and Easters when he used to visit his parents. So when something happens outside of our experience, outside of what we expect, we make it mean something about ourselves. So I interpret it as a 5-6-year-old girl, well, if I haven't got my dad and everybody else has, then it must mean I don't matter. So I had this subconscious limiting belief trickling below the surface like an underground stream, not visible, but always flowing. And I had this fear of being left. And that fear of being left has showed up throughout my life, and I've got to keep a check on it. And this subconscious belief that maybe I don't matter and I need to be perfect, that's how I interpret the world. So when I went to secondary school and I could please the teachers, I rose to top sets. I became top of top sets, not because I was interested in the learning, because to please was to stay safe, to be perfect was to stay safe. And so there, I developed this way of being perfectionist. And I know some of you will have that tendency, and I know for certain you will have staff that have a perfectionist tendency, that no matter what you say, no matter what you do, they can't take time out because they need to go to the nth degree. And this strategy worked. Its strategy worked for a while. I'm just going to mix some more into the waiting room. There we go. Because I went to St. Julian's secondary school, and then I went to St. Edward's sixth form, and I didn't realise that I was insecure and had wonky thinking because the wheels fell off in sixth form and I struggled, and I ended up getting on any degree that would take me in clearing. And I did well. I got my degree. And I did what you're meant to do. I traveled the world, I got a job, I went into teaching, I got married, had kids, and that all worked okay. But when life events happened, the wheels would fall off, and I'd put them back on and then they'd fall off. Let me just admit people into the room. I think we're having problems getting in. Thanks, you'll handle that, Brill. Now that worked okay, but then the wheels would fall off when things would happen. And in my first year of teaching, this will be quite interesting for Kerry who's on the call, because her mum was my head teacher at the time. I was actually on antidepressants, and I'd be crying in the toilets because I was struggling to be this perfect teacher with wonky thinking going on. And I struggled, and there was times when I had depression and anxiety. And during my first few years of teaching, I was actually going to inner child therapy, where in those days you'd write with your non-dominant hand, and you would write with that dominant hand to get in touch with inner child. And I left inner child therapy going, well, yeah, my needs didn't get met with it as a child. Poor me, and feel a victim. And I developed strategies to cope. So one of them in sixth form, I had a calendar and it said, be a live wire and no one will step on you. And that was my strategy. I thought, that's the way to go. I'll be a live wire. And the Christina show was born. But this stream flowing below the surface was still there. And then the wheels kept falling off. And it was only when I went on the coaching journey that I realized that if I went back to the past and got responsible for the meaning that I gave things, that I could rewrite rewrite that energy inside myself and rewrite the past and free myself from it. So rather than my dad doesn't want to know me, I don't matter, going sort of below the surface, I could rewrite it as, my dad didn't have what he needed to be a dad because he didn't have the childhood that would give him it. He didn't have the experiences. It means nothing about me. Him not being in his life, in my life, means nothing about me. Let me just get this off. I think some people are struggling to get in. It meant nothing about me. It just meant everything about him. And my mum's need to control and try and improve all the time was just her way to try and feel safe. And if I went back in time and I said to Mum, Mum, I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to navigate your moods. I'm going to try and fix you. Is that what you want? Because it's going to lead to some crippling perfectionism in life. She would have said, no, Christina, go be a child. But I chose those ways of being. And this is the kicker. We're not taught that in life generally, and we're not taught that in school. But when anything happens to us, we get to choose the meaning. So when I've coached some vulnerable children, and I've shared my story, like dominoes, they've fallen down and said, well, actually, my dad being in prison, I made it mean this about me, but actually, I'm going to mean it something, make it mean something else. These children didn't wait for me. These girls didn't wait for me on the yard, and I made it mean something because of my family situation, but I'm going to choose a different meaning. And this is so powerful. We may be treated like a victim, but we do not need to feel like a victim. And when I've gone back to past rework things with clients, it's not just trauma. And yes, I've coached in a variety of trauma. It's that little conversation, that little interpretation in the classroom when the teacher commented on their word, or when they felt too afraid to ask for a question, or when that teacher made a comment on their GCSE results, or when they interpreted that their GCSE results weren't as good as the person next to them. So I have used all of this to take into my journey going forward, to illustrate how you can coach a 4-year-old who thinks they've got no friends to change the lens, to believe something different, to go and make friends. And the 11-year-old who thinks, well, I shouldn't have been born because of the fallout from a family breakup. We can change the lens and choose a different meaning. From the teenager who is so crippled by being in a system that doesn't see her brilliance, chooses to not eat to try and regain control, get her to see a different view of the world. And for the families I've worked with, they're at crisis points because of the wonky meanings and fears they've got about not being enough. And the fear that I'm only safe if I win. I'm only safe if I've got a get out strategy. I'm only safe if I please. I'm only safe if I hide. And we've all got them, and we can still function brilliantly. But it's to have a little look about how we can tweak it, how we can shift it so we can live more wholeheartedly. And I know every single one of you as a leader, as a head teacher, has got a superpower. And it's owning that superpower and maybe having a little tweak about some of the stuff that's trickling below the surface that can help you thrive even more. So that's my story. And it's based on my why, that I fell in a number of potholes and I've worked out how to get out of them. But if I knew then what I knew now, I'd have got out of them a bit quicker. So my mission, my quest is to pass on my belief that we need to learn and teach how to get out of potholes. And it's not just trying to avoid them, it's set up experiences and situations where we, in a safe environment, fall in those potholes and we learn how to get out of them. Because ultimately we need them. The council isn't going to smooth all the roads. They are going to come. So we need to find a way to learn how to get out of them quicker. Now that's my story. That's my story. It changes every time I say it because you know what? There's so many threads to it. So I've shown up to be seen, to share my story. Why? Because I want to show up to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I've got the Happy at School project, why I'm here today, but also so you can have a little stop and look at your own story. So let's reflect. What have you taken from me sharing my story now? I'm going to pause for a moment, have a slurp of my water, and give you a moment to reflect. And if you want to type in the chat box, what have you taken for you personally or from me? And what's the power in sharing our stories? And hopefully those people that were trying to get in earlier have got in to the Zoom. Okay, time to reflect. We get to choose the meaning, and that's really powerful, Karen. And some very simple coaching techniques can be applied to that. That when stuff happens, so in the moment coaching on the corridor in the classroom at school, and they say, so said this about me, and they go into victim zone, that it makes them mean something about them, that they're less, they get to choose a story, a neutral, a negative, or a positive one. That we all have a backstory, which we usually don't share with others yet. And we have one, and we've all got one. And the more we can claim it, the more we can help others step through their story. Brilliant. So there's such a thing as a trance of scarcity, and a trance of scarcity is there is not enough. And it's a trance because we walk through life going, it is not enough, but we all feel it. So it's acknowledging it and working out what we do about it. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of Matt Haig. He's a fantastic author who's written loads of books. And recently on Twitter, Matt put this: the belief I'm not enough nearly killed me. I didn't feel worthy for the world. I used to say repeated phrases a therapist recommended, corny as it seemed, and it helped. I know from others, affirmations help too. And the reason why I'm sharing that is because we all have a thread of it, but we think it's only us. And when Matt put this on Twitter, hundreds and hundreds of people responded, and his books have sold millions because people resonate with his emotional not enoughness journey of the characters in the story. And I'm sure you've all come across this book. Yeah, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. And this book is really, really popular. And it's popular for a reason, because it talks about humanness, and it talks about it in a simplistic way. And it talks about it in a simplistic way that everyone goes, yes. And for every page in the book, everyone can pretty much go, yes, 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 I believe that. That's what I think. And I have got my own little picture I did from that. And I did this, I'm very proud of this drawing. What do you think it is to be human? Asked the boy. To be truly you, said the mole, full time. And that's what I believe it is to be human, to be truly you. And the irony is, when I did that, I wrote the word true and then I added ly, and I looked at it and thought, I've made a spelling mistake. And my instinct was fear. Oh, I could be judged for making a spelling mistake. But I've left that spelling mistake because actually that doesn't mean anything other than I added an E. And how often do we see mistakes and we think it means something about us? So on the quest of humanness, I've left that in to illustrate we just need to be us. Be truly us, full time. And if we're looking at a humanity-rich curriculum, how much do we explicitly teach I am enough? How much do we explore it in our own selves, in our leadership? How much do we stop to go, I'm going to be me full time, with my spelling mistakes, with my wonky thinking, with my little fears, with my little insecurities? And how much do we feel, yeah, I am worthy and I deserve happiness, like real joy and real happiness? And the more we get all this going on, the more we can impact humanity and connect and bring us together, because something different is needed in the world right now. The pandemic has shown that. And something different is needed in education. The pandemic has shown that. So thoughts, what do you think it means to be human? And we're going to explore this in the breakout rooms later. What does it mean to be human? Because if you're raising human beings, what does that mean? Where do we want to get them through? And it's not the exam factory that we're pushed into, and you know that, otherwise you wouldn't be on this workshop today. So being human, some people think it feels like opposites, and it's absolutely true. We want to be looked after, but we want to be independent. We want adventure, but we want to stay safe. Being human is absolutely a mixture of opposites, but that is the duality of nature. You have to have the dark to appreciate the light. There is death, but then there is life. There is love and there is hate. There is death and there is new birth. There is a duality to life, and we need to embrace and dance with that, rather than when the dark times come and we think, oh no, there is a duality. Poor Catherine keeps trying to get into this Zoom call. Someone else said it's to feel and to really feel. To feel all emotions. And somewhere along the line, we've brought up this story that we've got good and bad emotions. Every emotion is good. Every emotion is valid. Every emotion needs to be got out on the kitchen block, looked out, chopped up and moved aside at times. Not we need to squash these emotions of fear, anxiety, vulnerability, inadequacy, because that turns into numbing, excess eating, could be drugs, excess sport, it could be excess drink. It doesn't have to be addiction. It can be a numbing, having that glass of wine to take the edge off when I'm cooking an evening meal. We need to feel the emotions and learn a dialogue and model it just like we do learning a piece of prose, piece of writing, and how to do a certain maths function. Being human, some people have said it's to be in our raw truth. This is me, cut me and I bleed. To connect. And we can only connect if we show up and we say, this is me, so I can show it to me so other people feel safe to show up. And it means to love and to show it to be seen. And the more we can access that, the more I believe we could help the children in our care and the young people to feel more secure, because you're all primary school teachers. And yes, there are problems now, but the level of trauma and anxiety, self-harming, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, anxiety going to school in secondary school is at an all-time high. I don't even need to share the statistics with you. So your role is not just about in primary school, and you know that, but it's about having a little look, what can we tweak to help our human beings feel more enough when they go on to secondary school and into life. So how do you base your decisions? How do you base your decisions as a human being and as a leader? Is it about basing them on the people you care about, family and health? Is it about achievement and success? Do you base your decisions as a leader on fear of getting judged, on validation, on healing your own inner child? And I bet you'd all say it's about who I care about, it's my family, it's the health. But I'm sure at times you put that to the back and it's other reasons, and you want to keep people safe. But how is it and how often is it? Sometimes I'm doing this because I'm afraid to put my head above the parapet. I'm afraid I might be judged by an outer body or a parent. And I just need to feel good. And you know it's not about results, but we can get in that groove of it, that groove, how we make decisions. And here's an example with another group of head teachers I worked with. And they talked about the time we had snow days. And a head teacher would say, right, there's a lot of snow and closing the school, but I'll just phone Sheila and see if she closing the school. And Sheila says, yes, I'm closing the school. And then Sheila phones Mary, and Mary says, yeah, I'm closing the school. And then Mary phones Novi, and Novi says, yeah, I'm closing the school. And then Novi phones Jacob, and Jacob goes, oh no, my chair of governors won't let me close the school. I'm not closing my school. And then because one's broken away, other head teachers go, well, they're not closing school, I don't think I can close my school. And then it filters down, like, well, they're not for closing school, they've broken away, so we don't feel safe to close our school in case we get judged, I'm not closing my school. And there's an example of how we worry what other people are doing, and we check in to see what others are doing, and because we like that security and safety in numbers. But if we are tuning into our true north, we need to know. So we know what our true north is, so we know what our soul is made of. We know what our soul is made of, so we can adjust the sails to follow our true north. And yes, you get that reassurance in asking other people what they're doing, but having that confidence and that practice and that intuition of going, right, my true north says this is best for my pupils, this is best for my staff, this is best for my school. Because the pressure on top of you is like an avalanche from the powers of be and the DFE and the politicians and Ofsted and the DFE guidance. How much is you following it is fear-led, and how much is it, this is me, this is what I think is best for my pupils. Following your true north. So would you like to just pause for a second and just think? And on your piece of paper, just write the word true north. What is my true north? And come back to it. What is my true north? What do you really believe? What do you want to guide you when the pressure comes, when that avalanche is dolloped on top of you? Because it's coming back to this true north, to your decision of who you be, your idea of what it is to make a human, about how you raise these humans that will keep you warm and keep you reassured, as well as connection to a community. And in defining your true north, it's looking at what defines you, who are you, what defines you? Is it results? I know it's not, but it impacts, doesn't it? Is it the outcome? Is it the achievements? Is it your status? Is it your job title? Is it the size of your car? Is it the size of your house? Is it your family? Is it stuff? Because a lot of people go into life, and at times all of this can affect us thinking, my results define me. And the number of teenagers I've coached, the number of leaders I've coached that think their results define them, and it holds them back, because it's not your results that define you. It's not your stuff. And in the pandemic, none of this stuff mattered, because it was about who you be. And I call it nakedly enough. How much do we feel that when we step out of our shower of a morning, we are nakedly enough, without having done anything this day, without having achieved anything, without having acquired anything? And do we teach nakedly enoughness in schools? And it's only when we stop to think about that we can shift things. Because I believe we were born, and I think our faith dictates it, doesn't it? Our faith says you are enough. This is your journey through life. You always were enough, but we forget it. And our quest in life is to work out that we are enough. And I think people on their deathbeds think, actually, I was enough. I wished I'd have realized that sooner. I'd wished I'd enjoyed the moments more, because actually I was enough, but I was busy worrying that I wasn't enough, and worrying about the outcome, and worrying about what people thought, and worrying about the future. Nakedly enough. When I get up in the morning, the trance of scarcity doesn't start. I've not had enough sleep. I'm not fit enough. I'm not slim enough. I've not got time. There's not enough money. There's not enough resources. My staff aren't ready enough. The children aren't prepared enough. The school isn't big enough. Just check in with that little story, that little film that goes on in your mind about not enoughness. Because what if you started your day with, being me just as I am? That was enough. What if being me just as I am was enough? And then you built on it, letting go of outcome, focusing on who you be. And I remember a story when I taught in year 2, and you put your star of what was good, and then you'd say your even better ifs. And at the end of one week, one little year 2 child came to me. She said, Mrs. Mitchell, you keep putting what I've got to do to improve. When will I ever be enough? And that moment really hit me in the face, and thought, oh, what am I teaching this girl? What am I teaching my pupils? Because every lesson I'm saying, yes, but, and but, yeah, that's okay, but. When are we ever going to say, that's great just the way it is? And it's a fine line. It's a fine line between improvement and sowing the seeds of not enoughness. And there is no answer. There's just a tweak. It's how you play with it, how you dance with it. And to feel enough is to say, this is me. Actually, I've done my best. This is me. This is my best effort, and I will learn from that. And there's a different energy, a different flavor to it. I can learn from this too. This is me, and it wasn't enough. And to claim our enoughness, we need to look at vulnerability. And the definition of vulnerability is the quality of state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Now, I'm going to question that definition, because that definition implies we need a shield and we need a sword and we need to be ready for attack. If I'm me, I could be attacked or harmed. I'm exposed. But what if we had a different definition of vulnerability? What if showing up to me was, this is me. I'm going to let down that sword and shield a little bit and go, this is me. And I'm going to own it so I don't feel as vulnerable. So I can say when I need help. I can say when I'm afraid. I can say I feel a little bit insecure. I can say I need a friend. I can say who I truly am. And Brené Brown talks about vulnerability being uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. And that's massive. Show up every day when you can't control the outcome. That uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. So for me, there was a risk me showing my story. I had shadow saying one thing and light saying another on my shoulder. I shared my story, and I had, what if they don't like me? What if they do? Shadow, what if I mess up? Light said, this is being human. What if I don't do a good enough job? What if I do? Because we all have that shadow, we all have that light. And you know that stepping into the light is part of who you are as spirit leaders, as guides. What if I look stupid? What if you don't? What if I'm different? Well, we all are, aren't we? What if I fall? Or what if you fly? And so I shared my story and I listened to light and I let go of shadow. And I'm just going to invite you of where you can step up in that authenticity and listen to light as opposed to shadow, because you know yourself, you felt every one of those things on the left, and so have your staff and so have your pupils. And when you share your story just a little bit, they can step into light even more. And shame is, I'm not good enough. But the antidote to shame is claiming who we are. This is me, and I'm not perfect. This is me, and I make mistakes. This is me, and I didn't know at one point that truly didn't have an Ian, but I do now. Doesn't make it mean anything about me. And to immunize against shame is having the courage to be who we really are. And that's why this book is a phenomenon, because it simplistically says, be the courage, have the courage to be who you are. This is me. This is me. And through the flavour of the book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, you can hear the author going, I'm not quite perfect. I'm not quite sure I've got it all figured out, but I'm just showing up. And that's why it resonates. So to dare is to be vulnerable, to be authentically, organically, truly you, to put down that shield with spelling mistakes or decisions that people might like or something that doesn't go to plan. Dare to be authentically, organically, truly you. And if you'd like to just stop and pause for a moment and just think, and on your piece of paper, draw a shield. And just for a moment, just give it 60 seconds and think, where do you put up your shield? When does it go up? And with that awareness, you can maybe put it down just a little bit every now and again and dare to be seen with uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, and see the gifts that you get from that. Because as a leader, everything filters from you. How you interpret the world, how you step up to be human, how you interpret your mistakes that aren't mistakes, it's just you being out in the arena. And it filters down to your staff, to your pupils. So looking at mistakes, expect them, welcome them, see the gift in them, and love your cracks. Everyone has cracks. We talk about flaws, but everyone has got them. And in Japan, they have something called kintsugi. And this is where they put pottery back together, but with gold, because they see there's a beauty in our mistakes. There's a beauty in things that didn't go well. And they put these plates back together and this pottery back together with gold, and they celebrate them. How much do you use gold to put your cracks back together? How much do you celebrate the cracks? Because looking at that plate, the cracks are even more gorgeous than the rest of the plate. So welcome your flaws, celebrate them. We've all got them, and not see them as flaws. It's just what makes you human. It's part of being you. And the less we hide them and the more we go, yeah, but this is me. Christina struggles with spelling every now and again. The more we can claim our humanness, get in the arena, be braver, step up, step out, and impact humanity and look after the connection with everybody, not just our people first. So a bit of reflection. What do you make a mistake? When you make a mistake, what do you make it mean about you? Haha, it is the worst plate you've ever seen, but you know what, Mark? I think I'm going to buy one. I'm going to put it on my table, and every time I have a do, I'm going to talk about and remember that imperfection is a beautiful thing, and actually being imperfect is perfect. You can buy that on Amazon online if you want it. Thanks for the comment, Mark. Okay, so reflection about mistakes. What are the benefits of making mistakes? Now, I bet you say that to your staff and you say that to people, but do you really feel it? Do you feel it on the inside, making a mistake? Not when you're in it, maybe when you're out of it, but you know, when you get into a mistake, this is a learning point. Do you model it? Do you teach it? About it's okay, because the more you're okay with making mistakes, I guarantee your staff will be braver to take risks. Your staff will be braver to get out there and own a project and take something on and do something differently if it feels safe to make a mistake, because a mistake is just seen as growth and celebrated. Well done, we've got in the arena. And it's okay to risk emotional exposure, because you're doing it for the good of your children, the good of your school, the good of humanity, because you never know the trees you plant, how they'll grow. And you're in the business of planting trees you will never see. Is it enough what you're doing? Is it enough the way you look at mistakes, the way you model it, the way you talk about it with your staff? Is it enough? That's for you to know and reflect on. So stopping to think, do you need to have it all figured out? No, you do not need to have it all figured out. And I bet if I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 for how much you feel you need to have it all figured out, you would say, oh yeah, but I'm the leader, I think I should. So let's show up honestly in that chat box now. How many of you feel you're where you are on the scale of 1 to 10 for making mistakes? 10, I'm dead comfy with making mistakes. 1, I hate it and I want to roll under a stone when I make a mistake. Type in the chat box on a scale of 1 to 10 for making mistakes. 10, I'm comfy. 1, I avoid it like the plague. Or a comment about how you feel about having it figured out. Colleen, lovely for showing up with that authenticity and bravery. Look at that, showing up to be seen. 5, 6. A 2, Kerry, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Showing up to be seen. Because it's only when we have that self-awareness can we tweak things and we can go, this is maybe something that's stopping me thrive as much. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing so brilliantly. Because I want you to just stop for a minute. When you make a mistake, what does it mean about you? Fiona, I don't mind making mistakes in front of colleagues, but hate making them in front of parents. Yes. And that is true, because I bet you think the parents will judge you, and they will judge you for not being a good enough leader, and like judge you for not being in charge enough, and they might judge you for not running the school enough. But actually, those parents are so petrified of making a mistake. What if I'm not a good enough parent? What if I'm not protecting my child against, well, it's not saber-tooth tigers anymore, but it could be not getting the grades they want, because if they get the grades, I'll protect them enough in life. So when you do not care how you present to others, it is liberating, because you can say, this is me, and I have done something with my best decisions, my best awareness at the time. I never said I had to be perfect. I don't think you need to be, and I don't think my pupils need to be either. Because it's the pupils that are crippled with perfectionism, and literally I've coached them rolling around on the floor with anxiety because they get 19 onto 20, that they don't get the A grades because they're beaten up inside, because they feel they're only good enough and worthy if they're perfect. Because the parents, through their love and desire to help, keep giving suggestions on how to improve. Oh, you got 95%. What were the 5% you didn't get? What did so and so get? And the subtext, because we read the subtext is they're better than you, something's missing, you're lacking. And it's being aware of that, being aware of what we're saying, but what the subtext is, what we really mean. And that subtext as well, when you go and speak to a member of staff about something they've done that's not quite worked, having that honest conversation with them to say, well, what do you need? What support do you need? And being open and vulnerable. And I saw something on Twitter a while ago, and it was and this is going off on a little tangent, but it was yes, no, Holly, see, look, I'm going off on a tangent. So Kerry's put, did I make a mistake? I scored 2, as I hate making mistakes. You were absolutely right, Kerry. So did the fear come over you that I made a mistake with the score? No, you didn't make a mistake with the score, but I think your little fear of making a mistake came out there, Kerry. 2 is you hate making mistakes, yeah? And we had 5, 6, 10 is like I'm comfy making mistakes. So brilliant, Kerry. But you see, you just checked in with, did I make a mistake about making mistakes? I'm just going off on a little tangent here about how it's having an authentic conversation. So I've recently coaching a head teacher who had a little situation with a member of staff, and she thought she was helping, but the subtext was, I don't think you're doing a good enough job, so here's a book to go and read. I don't think you've quite handled this properly. And it's checking in with that language that It's having the right language to go, not the right language, having a language to go, okay, that didn't work out, what do you need? That didn't work out, what can I do to support you? What went well in that situation, what do you need? Rather than we can swoop in to try and fix, and the subtext is, well, I must be broken if I need fixing. We read the subtext. It's not what we say, it's not what we do, it's the subtext below the words. And you know that because you know the subtext with a parent and the subtext with a member of staff and the subtext with your family member. That time where someone asks you in your family, oh, does my coat look good? You go, yeah. But underneath the surface, you go, no, you look awful in that. That coat is way too young for you. And that was just me with my husband with a coat that I think a 20-year-old should wear, but I'm letting him get away with it in his 50s, thinking he's down with the kids. But I said, yeah, it's great. And he went, you don't like it, do you? Because he read my subtext. So we don't need to have it all figured out. See the joy and the gift of mistakes, get uncomfortable with it a little bit and let it go. Let it go to be able to claim, this is me. I don't need to have it all figured out. I'm doing it one brick at a time, and I'm doing my best to follow my inner compass. Use your inner compass and follow my inner compass. Find your true north, and if you need an affirmation, find one that works for you, like Matt Haig said he had, and that helped him with his not enoughness. I'm tuning into my inner compass and trust it will guide me towards my true north, because you know, as sure as eggs is eggs, something's going to come tomorrow and next week that's going to challenge your true north. It's going to push you off course. And knowing your true north, following your inner compass, claiming who you are, this is me, this is what I believe is right for my staff and my pupils, and ignoring that judgment. Because as Fiona said, you don't mind making it in front of colleagues, that mistake, but in front of parents. What would it be like if we let go of the outcome and we trusted ourselves rather than feared what someone would say? Hold steady. You're at the helm of a ship and it's gone through some turbulent waters. It's gone through storms and there's been a few calm seas, but those storms will come again. And it's learning to hold steady, owning who you are. This is me. This is my true north, and I will hold steady. And see vulnerability as authenticity. This is me. And my cracks, even though they might look messy, they're a thing of beauty, because we've all got them. So this is time to reflect. Can't believe it, an hour has passed. This is our time to reflect. What have you got from this session? It's passed in an instant. It feels like 10 minutes. They say time flies when you're having fun. I want you to reflect and type in the chat box. Do you feel more human? A little comment, yes, a bit, kind of, I sure do. What is your score now for feeling more human? I'm asking you to put a score. I'm not asking you to show up too much. You don't have to. You put a little bit more human, whatever you fancy, whatever you're safe with, show up in the chat box about feeling human. And if I'm looking to the side, that's because all your faces are on my screen at the side. So don't hope I'm appearing rude when I look to the right. Fully human, Mark. I love it. I'm going to buy that plate, Mark. I'm going to think of you. Mark thinks it looks a bit ugly, but I can see the beauty in it. I'm going to bring it out on special occasions. Celebrate it. I'm not letting the SARS request throw me off that true north. Michelle, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And it's knowing it will try to, but hold steady. Think of your true north, because you are here to leave footprints in the sand, to impact humanity. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Good to know that others have the same feelings I do with regards to mistakes are not good enough. Yes, Colleen. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And you'll be surprised. So like I do group coaching and I do one-to-one coaching, and I coach people that you go, my God, they are nailing it in whatever position, and head teachers running academies with that fear trickling below the surface, but what, we're not good enough. We've all got it. We have all got it. And it's not just quiet leaders or shy leaders, it's everybody. And sometimes it's the loud leaders that have this fear, well, if I'm not winning, does that mean I'm not safe? So we've all got it, we've all got it, we've all got it. And everything I've shared today, I've had permission to share. You can see more detail of coaching stuff on my website, although it's a bit out of date. Anyone else got anything? Okay. So now, as we're coming to the end, I want you to think about what is your one key message to take away. Just one message from this hour that you're going to take away. And I'm going to pause. It's good to remind of these things and also see others are feeling good going through the same things. Michelle, I have a SARS request coming in too. Yeah, we are not alone. And that's how connection is built, isn't it? I thought it was just me. You too. I feel a bit safer and not alone. Follow your convictions, Karen. Yes, follow your convictions, your true north. Anyone else? Your key message? I'm actually going to put your faces up here so I can see them. Admit to myself when I make a mistake. Yes, Kerry, and it doesn't mean anything about you. It only means what you make it mean. And you can choose it means I was in the arena, I had a go, I've done my best. It doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean anything about me. And the more you can do that, the more you hold the space and the energy for your staff to feel it and your pupils to feel it as well. Because in reception, in nursery reception, children seem to be free. And it gets to a point when it gets to year 1 where they start worrying about stuff. And it gets to a point in year 3 where they ask, can I turn a page in their book? Because they're afraid that they mightn't be able to turn a page. And in reception year 1, they know where to find the ruler. And then in year 5, sometimes they don't like to get up because they're told to sit down. Why are you getting out of your seat? And they're afraid to find the ruler. At what point and what is it in education where children start fearing making a mistake? Because the fear of making a mistake stops us being brave. We need to acknowledge we're not perfect, celebrate those gold cracks, and learn to get in the potholes and explicitly teach it so we can learn to get out of them and celebrate mistakes. So, Colleen, don't get carried away with nakedness and walk around the house. You'd not be fully appreciated by my teenagers. No, and Colleen, you would laugh. I Googled naked in the shower. And the pictures that came up were not particularly nice. So I didn't put that in the PowerPoint because they were a little bit dodgy. I think I'm going to get some sort of weird stuff on Google now after Googling that. So you've got to be careful where you talk about nakedness and where you do it. Absolutely. Val, loving this, Val. Be truly you full time without an E. You see, spell check got that right, didn't it? Not just at weekends. Yes, Val. Yes, yes, yes. Not just at weekends. And if it's uncomfortable and if it's exposing and if it's difficult, you're doing it because of that little Johnny, that little Teresa, that little Nuvi, that little Subia, who needs to feel it's okay to be me full time as well. It's okay to be me full time. I've been thinking of songs. Oh, Karen, you're a girl after my own heart. I sang a song on the deputies workshop at HEADSPACE, but I'm not going to do it today. I'm thinking of songs. Let It Go, This Is Me, and I'm Only Human. Yes, don't put the blame on me. Yes, and don't put the blame on me. It's kind of like, oh, we could pull that apart. There is no blame. I'm just doing my best. I screw up and I'm going to screw up again. I make mistakes and I'm going to make mistakes, but it's okay because that's what being human is about. I love it. Another time we could sing some songs, but maybe not today. Brilliant. Thank you for showing up. And I hope you've been inspired what other people have put in the chat box as well. Now, we are stronger together. And I'm a primary teacher at heart, and I love a visual. And I love a little prop. We all get brainwashed in life. You have been brainwashed as children, not explicitly, but the messages you soaked up. You, as a head teacher, your pupils will get brainwashed. They'll pick up messages. But here's the thing, here's the gift. You, as a head teacher and as a leader, you get to choose the soap powder. You get to choose the soap powder. You get to choose the soap powder that will go round that washing machine, go round, spin around in your school, and those messages filter down and they're absorbed and soaked up and they're felt by your children, by your community, by the parents. It's a beautiful position to be in. You choose the washing powder, and it's up to you to choose which brand Doesn't have to be personal. You choose the washing powder. Okay. So ladies and gents, that brings us to the end of our hour. We are stronger together. And I see change in education happening when, like the tortoise shell formation, it's on the inside. We can't change the politicians very quickly. We can't change the guidance very quickly. We can't change the exam board. Yes, the change is afoot, but how long is it going to take? We don't need to wait for that. We can all be our own little Gandhi. And if we come together and we have that little change, I'm going to let go of outcome. I'm going to let go of that pressure. I'm going to follow my true north. I'm going to bring in humanity and humanness. But we all do it together like a tortoise. So we don't break rank and, oh, but they're not doing it. And we get stronger together. So on that quest, think about how you join together as a group of leaders. Now, if you want to, we're about to end, so some of you will be leaving. If you want to, I'm forming a little group. I'm forming a True North networking group. I did it with some schools last weekend, and I'm thinking about how we get together. So if you would like, I'm going to offer it because there's only 20 odd head teachers on here. I'm going to add, first of all, if anyone would like a complimentary coaching session to dig below the surface, please get in touch. It's complimentary, be an hour and a half, where we dig below the bonnet and see what that engine's made of. Anything we can rewire from the past, that's my gift to you. And I can do it because there's only 20 odd in this session. If you'd like to get involved with a head teachers WhatsApp group where for just till the end of term, we follow our true north, can't be doing with a Facebook group or an email list. If you want a bit of action now, between now and July, to keep this momentum going, get in touch. And if you want a copy of this PowerPoint, email me and I'll send you a copy of the PowerPoint. If you want to know anything more about the Happy at School project or coaching or whatever, there's my details. So no matter what you do, I urge you to get people around you with the sum of the 5 people we're around, according to Jim Rowan. The people around you that make you brave, that help you stick to your true north, that challenge it when you go into a little black hole when you've made a mistake. Have a little look about who you get around you to support you on this journey. This now is the end of our session. So I'm going to pause now. I'm going to stop share and I'm going to come out because we're going to have a 10-minute break, but I'm just going to come out of share and I'm going to come here and say, this is the end of the hour. I ran out about a couple of minutes. We started a couple of minutes in. If anybody's going, thank you for staying for the first hour. And anyone who's staying, how many have got staying? Because I'm going to have a little 5-minute break. Jessica's staying. No problem, Lorraine. Lovely to have met you. So if you're staying, we're going to meet on, it's 6 minutes past 11. If we come back, how long a break do you want, ladies and gents? Because we're going to break. Do you want 5 minutes? Do you want 10 minutes? What would you like? Because I could talk till the cows come home. How long a break? Mark, make a decision. How long a break do you think we'd have? Whatever you think Mark will do. Put the pressure on you, Mark. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Well, 10 minutes. So we will meet back at, should we say 20 past 11, okay? So anyone wants to come a little bit on, that's 30 minutes. Okay, should we meet back about 20 past 11? Is that okay, guys? Go and get a cup of tea, go and sort your school out, and I'll see you around 11:15, because you said 10 minutes, that means 17 minutes past. 17 minutes past. I'll see you shortly. Thanks, guys. Go and have a quick break, and I'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, now I'm going to stay on in case anybody, because I've come off, if anyone wants to have a little chat now in the break, you can do. Kathy needs to leave. Okay, lovely. So if anyone wants to come off mute and have a little chat, Emily, thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. I hope you got a lot from it. Get in touch if you want the PowerPoint, etc. And well done for showing up to be seen. Mark, are you hanging around? Fantastic, Mark. Thank you for being here, and take care. Are you right, Claire?